Hello and welcome to the She is Circle Lounge. I'm your host, Danielle Calhoun, with two ladies who need no introduction, but my phenomenal co-hosts, Bahati Hart and Kay Ray. We are starting our series on women's health, and today we are kicking off this series by starting with the heart. This heart-centered conversation is not just about the physical heart, but the emotional, energetic, and spiritual center of who we are as women. So when we talk about heart health, we often think about diet, exercise, medical checkups, and yes, those matter. But what if I told you that your heart is also deeply impacted by your emotions, your stress, your relationships, and even your ability to feel joy? So we're going deeper. We're talking about the real heart, the one that feels, the one that carries, that holds, and sometimes the one that breaks silently when we continue to show up for everyone else. So let's dive into the heart of the matter. See what I did there?
What you did there, girl.
So ladies, let's off with the reality of women's heart health. Often heart disease is known as like a man's issue, but it's actually the leading cause of death for women. And that challenge is that women's symptoms are often like different or more subtle, or often dismissed. So, but beyond the physical, there's something deeper happening. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, personally, scary because I've been diagnosed with a couple things regarding my heart health and just realizing that my high blood pressure is onset by menopause, something I can't control right now. So I have to like make these major changes to my lifestyle and realizing that that statistic alone that women die, like that's the number one killer of us, and that number is scheduled to climb tentatively is scary for me because it's like, why aren't we talking about this more? We don't want to be the number one. We don't want that to be the number one reason that takes us off this planet. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. But I'm amongst the women who are going through menopause, perimenopause, who just happen to have like this random spike in their blood pressure and have to be on medication. So it's an aha moment for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and most people aren't really educated about, especially women, about how their hormones, they're not just for reproduction, okay? They affect every cell in our body. And they can, when we enter perimenopause and menopause, we can develop all kinds of issues. And around our heart, it can cause heart palpitations, irregular heartbeat. And then you add on what we feel emotionally, psychologically, our stress levels go up. So our cortisol levels go up, which means it directly affects our heart. Because no matter what we're going through emotionally and psychologically, our body believes that the stress that we're feeling is danger. And it behaves that way. And that is just encoded in human beings across the board. And so it's so important to be educated and aware around how our shift in our hormones directly affects us physically, as well as mentally, emotionally. And I'm glad we're talking about this today because heart disease is the number one killer of women. And we need to change that. Absolutely. And part of that is women putting themselves first instead of last.
And that's
yeah.
Yes,
because as women, oh, go ahead.
Okay, I really it hit me so hard recently when I had all these tests done because I'm having palpitations and I have high blood pressure and I'm like, what the hell's going on? None of the doctors said, oh, it's related to menopause or maybe a low magnesium or maybe low potassium. None of them said that. I had to like sift through all this information and realize for myself, like, this is actually what's going on, because this is how I feel. But none of them knew that. So self-advocacy absolutely came.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
as
Absolutely.
women.
And most of these doctors. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just making a statement, like just as women and carrying so much, especially those of us that are high achieving. There's things that we have going on or things that we have going on and have to wear so many hats. But it's just we're carrying a lot of the emotional labor and suppressing our needs and, living in that chronic stress and prioritizing everybody else. And so all of that just lives in the body and it lives in our heart.
Yeah. And even that point too is that we have been conditioned to do for others, so much so that when it comes to our own health, we don't even know how to advocate for ourselves. We don't even know how
Yeah.
to express to the doctors how deeply we are concerned about our own health, because we can champion and advocate for our kids and our husbands and our mothers and all the things, but when it comes to us, we don't even know how to express that. And so part of it is like I take some responsibility in that too, because I'm always like, I feel fine. No, I don't. I'm
Right.
not fine.
Yeah. We don't want to say that. We don't want to
Right.
say that. Appear as being weak or, oh, she's just being weak or she's just being emotional or she's just being a woman,
Right. That's what we are. All the things. Yeah. We are all those things.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Right. What's wrong with you? That time of the month again or whatever. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I have to tell you this really quick.
Other. By the way, women do it to each other too.
You do.
And, and that has to change as well.
Yeah, we definitely, there are more women speaking up about things, like, not to sidetrack, but like I know Holly Berry's talking about menopause and vaginal health, and Lupita Nyong'o's now talking about fibroids. But I have to share this. That was so sweet. My husband and I had like a little disagreement the other day. We didn't see eye to eye on something. And so I just got really emotional, and he was like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "I don't." And so then I told him, I said, "My menopause makes my brain scrambled eggs." And so, bless his heart, he went on AI and he was like, "I want to help my wife when she's having like emotional breakdown and she's going through menopause. What can I do?" And so he showed me the results, and I was like, that part. That's what we need. We need to advocate for ourselves as much as we need people championing for us as well. So this is where the tables turn, my friends.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, what did the AI results say? Do you remember?
I just remember it was very validating. Like, it was like, rub her feet or let her have her moment. Just hold a container space. Don't challenge her. Don't argue with her. Let her express her emotions. That was expressing a lot of things. And I was like, I hear what I'm saying and I know what I'm feeling, and they're two different things. And I can't express to you why that is, because it's such an interesting space to be in menopause right now, like out of body experience sometimes. But it really was validating, because he was like, oh, basically what I've been doing, just like keep my mouth shut and let you be and just love you because you have no control over this. I was like, thank you. And so that was what I needed him to understand, was I don't have control over it. And that's what's so fucking scary about it. Yeah. That's what's so terrifying. It's like, I could be fine and then I can't. Yeah. In an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody's safe. Everybody's safe. If you have a partner and children, to me, they are just as responsible for understanding and supporting you as you have been to them. That was the moral of that story.
Absolutely. It is a two-way street.
They definitely.
I actually started going through that in my late 30s. I had early ovarian failure and went into perimenopause at 39 years old, and didn't realize that's what was going on. And my family thought I was losing my ever-loving mind, and I felt like I was.
Yeah.
During that.
You are, technically, your hormones are shifting everything. So you really are. And that's what's so sad about the ignorance and the ignoring of us as women, is like, we are losing our minds. We're literally losing pieces of ourselves because our hormones are leaving our existence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that's what's
Morally one.
heartbreaking. So bringing it back to the heart, right? Like
Hmm.
emotionally, that's what's heartbreaking when all these things start attacking our bodies and no
Yeah,
one understands, no one empathizes with that. So the emotional side, to your point, Danielle, is like the emotional side of it as well as the biological side is like a double whammy. We getting beat up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally get that. Let's kind of go into a little bit about like the emotional and the energetic heart. So let's bring that piece into it. So as we know that research, including the work from the Heart Math Institute, shows that the heart has its own intelligence.
Yes.
And it's sending signals, more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So for those that don't know that are watching, which means that your emotional state isn't just your mind, it's your body. And
Yes.
when you're in stress, frustration, overwhelm, your heart rhythm becomes chaotic and your nervous system becomes dysregulated. So, but if you experience emotions like, and because I teach how to be happy for no reason, I have to bring this point up. When you experience emotions like gratitude and love and joy and comparison, and your heart moves in what's called coherence. And that state of alignment between your heart and your mind and your nervous system. So when you take that in, your emotions are literally shaping your heart health. So what are your thoughts on that? I know you've got a lot of thoughts on that.
Well, you know, that's my that's that I when I came across that science, it was so validating for me in so many ways.
Yep.
From the feminine woman side and who we are as creators of life and realizing like the heart is the first brain, it is the first spark of existence. But also on the end of life side, which is you can be brain dead, but if your heart stops beating, honey, you dead, you gone. Okay, so the heart to me is the center, it is the central station to the entire system.
The
Whereas
seat of our soul.
society, mostly Western culture, has trained us to believe the brain controls everything. That is not true. Actually, I just learned recently the stomach has its own kind of brain as well. So I was like, oh Lord, we're just a magnificent magical machine. But I'm all
Yeah.
for educating people on heart centered, heart energetic alignment and heart intelligence. Like I think that is a new science that we should explore deeper.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the cost of disconnection, if we talk about what happens when we disconnect from our hearts, it's when we ignore our feelings, like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine and knowing we're not. Staying in environments that drain us. Lord knows I did. I mean, I got pushed out, but I was staying in that job that was draining. It's like literally, I'd come home and say, it's literally sucking the life out of me. Like
Yeah.
that's how I felt, and saying yes when we mean no. Like, again, I'm fine, but no, we're not fine. And pushing through that exhaustion. So we begin to live like in survival mode. And
Yeah.
then in survival mode, we can't heal. Um,
Right.
yeah, this is how we get burned out or resentment builds or we start to feel disconnected or numb, even invisible in our own lives, guilty. So over time, our emotional suppression can manifest physically, in my opinion.
It absolutely does every time, always. The body has to respond to whatever emotional state that we're in. If you view our bodies kind of like the computer monitor, whatever we are putting out will show up in the body, given our facial expressions, our heart rate, um, whether we're feeling restless, muscle tension.
Yes.
People say, I always hold tension in my neck and shoulders. Well, the reason being is that when you are in a stressed out, heightened emotional state, the first thing you do is hold your breath.
Yeah, we don't breathe.
Hold your breath. So, and it's because your body's going like, oh, well, danger's here. So I gotta get ready. And then everything reacts biologically from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
there is an old saying, you are what you think, right?
Hmm.
So be mindful of the thoughts. That's where I love the 4 agreements about being impeccable with your word. It's about the words that we think and speak to ourselves, not so much out loud, which is important, but the ones that we say to ourselves is vitally important because it directly affects our physical being. If we're down on ourselves, we feel tired. We feel less motivated. We feel weepy. And we even feel more sore and achy in our body because those negative thoughts and emotions affect us physically every time without exception.
Yeah. I love how all of it is connected, right? Especially, I love the science of spirituality. And so when I talk to people, I always try to like tie those two or braid them back together because we are what we speak and we speak out of the heart. There's a biblical verse about that, like out of the mouth is the way the heart speaks. I know I'm paraphrasing for biblical scholars out there, but what I love about the science of spirituality is that heart awakening is a concept where your heart comes back online. It is the seat of the soul. It is the center of your consciousness. It is what awakens you to be more alive, literally and figuratively. And so like when you walk into a room or you're with someone, you're like, are you okay? Like we can energetically feel when something's off with somebody. And it's like, how do we know?
Yeah.
How do we know that? Because the science of the heart says that we emit energy up to 9 feet outside of us because of how our heart is feeling. And so when people bypass the emotion, they almost close that door and just stay up here, and mental health is on the rise. It ain't getting no better. And so now there's this discussion around, let's study the neuroscience of consciousness. And I'm like, well, first, why don't you come on down in the room and study the heart, and then it'll make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The bottom line is our heart's not just a pump, and it's not, it's a processor of the emotional experience. You can't heal your body if you're constantly abandoning it. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of our Women's Health series. Tune in next Sunday for episode 2 on heart health. Remember, whatever feels good to your soul, do that.